In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Black Swan, one of the most anticipated characters who is coming to the game on Tuesday. Before I start today's video, I just want to say that I might not make a video on pulling for her after what happened to me in my Shenyun pulls in Genshin. If you want to find out how I got traumatized, go watch that video. You know that I had to just self-promote a bit, but without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Starting off with her kit, because oh boy, if you get to fully understand what it does in exact detail, you're gonna probably drop money into getting her eidolons so that you'll never have difficulty clearing any part of the game anymore. I'm just kidding, please don't spend your money on gacha games unless you're sure that you can afford to do so, and let's start off with a normal attack. It deals single target wind damage, and it also has a chance of applying one stack of her own special type of DOT called Arcana. Additionally, if the hit enemy already has a dot on them, there will be a chance to apply another stack of Arcana. Think of this as being Sample's normal attack if you're a little bit confused, but for Black Swan, only a maximum of 2 stacks of her special dot can be applied here. And I hope that you guys are already starting to see why in my 2.0 livestream summary video, I said that Black Swan is going to be great for a Kafka team. But let's move on to her skill so that you guys get the full image. Her skill deals wind damage to the hit enemy, and adjacent enemies also take a bit of damage. There's a base chance of 100% to apply 1 stack of Arcana, and also defense shred onto the hit enemy and the adjacent enemies. And this is why I think Black Swan is a must pull. As a Nihility Path character, being able to apply both DOT and also debuffs within the same attack is something that is absolutely insane. Although you can say that Lucas Lycone allows Nihility characters who are only DOT orientated to do this as well, the fact that Black Swan can do this without needing to use this Lycone is what makes her, if not the best, one of the most valuable characters that we've seen so far in the game. Not only can she be played as a DPS, she can also be used as a debuffer and also as a sub DPS, all at the same time. Her ultimate further shows how well-rounded of a character she is. First of all, it makes all enemies take more overall damage by giving herself the Epiphany effect, which lasts for 2 turns. Then it applies the Sacrament effect onto all enemies, and what this does is that it's another different DOT that deals damage at the beginning of enemies' turns. Sacrament doesn't decrease for 1 turn during the duration of the Epiphany effect. I know that I probably didn't describe this in the best way possible, but basically it deals damage and applies 2 debuffs that deal damage and make enemies take more damage. Before I explain the detail of what Black Swan's talent does, as it's all about this Arcana DOT, I'll first talk about her technique, which is another borderline broken part of her kit in my opinion. It applies 1 stack of Arcana onto enemies at the start of the battle, and there's a chance for another stack to be applied if the previous stack is successfully applied. The base chance of this happening is 50% of the previous stack, so luckily Hover's held back on this one and it's not completely broken. But I still have to say, if you stack effect hit rate on Black Swan, which is what you should do, this will become even more impactful as you'll be applying more stacks of Arcana in general. As for her talent, it talks about the extra ability that Arcana has, besides what are described in the other parts of her kit. First off, whenever an enemy takes DOT damage at the beginning of a turn, there's a chance to apply 1 extra stack of Arcana for every DOT that is already on the enemy. Each stack of Arcana will increase the DOT damage that is dealt by 15%, and I've got to say the base multiplier for just 1 stack is already very nice, at 200% of Black Swan's attack at level 10. Furthermore, there are also some extra effects about Arcana that will only take place if Arcana deals damage. When there are more than 3 stacks on an enemy, adjacent enemies will also take DOT damage and 1 stack of Arcana will be applied to them. And when there are more than 7 stacks, the DOT damage that will be dealt will ignore 20% of the enemy's defense stat. And in case you were wondering, the maximum number of stacks for Arcana is 50, and this resets back to 1 stack whenever Arcana deals damage. We can see how Hover's has balanced her here by making it so that the stacks don't stay forever, or else she'll be just completely broken. Before I finish off this section of the video, I should also let you guys know about her major traces, as they're quite offensive as well. Her first major trace gives her the ability to apply extra stacks of Arcana based on the number of DOTs that the hit enemies have. Her second major trace applies 1 stack of Sacrament for every DOT that is applied by a single attack dealt to an enemy. Finally, her third trace gives her a flat damage increase that is 60% of her effect hit rate, and you can get a maximum amount of a 72% damage increase from this, and this is why I've said that you should get as much effect hit rate as possible when building her. Overall, you can see very clearly that she's a very strong DPS character who has some traits of a debuffer as well. I'll just say this before anything else, that you should run at least 1 more DOT character with Black Swan, be it Kafka so that she becomes a sub DPS, or just any other DOT character. And if we follow the usual way of building a team, after having another DOT character, you would naturally want to look for a buffer slash debuffer and then a healer or sustainer. If you have Hoko, then you can probably add another buffer slash debuffer onto the team because she heals a bit as well. But in case if you don't have her, then you can always use Lynx as the healer. Pela is probably the best 4-star debuffer in the game, and because of her ability to reduce the defense of enemies, she can definitely make Black Swan deal massive amounts of damage. Alternatively, if you've gotten Roundmate in 1.6, then you can also use her as well because of her all-type resistance penetration buff, and at the moment, she's definitely the best Harmony Path character in the game in terms of the amount of buffs that she provides. As I've said, Kafka is probably the character who has the best synergy with Black Swan. She can take advantage of the Arcana stacks and basically deal Arcana's damage twice. While I'm not sure whether Kafka's ability to trigger a DOT's damage twice will reduce the Arcana stacks or not, it still doesn't mean that they're a bad match. Kafka applies DOT onto enemies a lot of times, and this also means Arcana stacks are going to be applied, and this is the main reason why they have such good synergy. I'm not saying that Kafka is a character that you must put on the same team as Black Swan, but doing so will make your Black Swan even more valuable. From a different angle, you can also say that Black Swan is a much needed buff for Kafka, as she has definitely been power crept by the recent release of Destruction Path characters like Jingliu or Dangan IL. Next up, I'll be talking about her Lycone and Relic options, and surprisingly, her options are pretty straightforward. Her signature Lycone is of course her best in slot. It gives her 40% effect hit rate right off the bat, and for every type of DOT that is applied to an enemy, Black Swan will gain 1 stack of the Prophet effect whenever she attacks the said enemy. Every type of DOT can only generate 1 stack of this effect in one battle, with the maximum amount of these stacks being at 4. Each stack makes Black Swan get 5% more attack, and also make her attacks ignore 7.2% of their defense. Again, we can see that Hoververse is really selling this character and trying their absolute hardest to get people to well, because this Lycone is just very strong in general, and the art is also very interesting. In terms of 4-star options, Samples and Lucas Lycones once again are the best option for Black Swan, just like with Knife and also other Nihility Path characters. Samples 1 is more offensive and Lucas 1 makes her apply more debuffs. Even the 1.1 event Lycone is good on her, to be fair, as it also gives effect hit rate and also gives her a bit of energy. As for her relic sets, go for the Prisoner set for the 4-piece, and for the Planet Ornament, go for either the Space Station set or the Firmament set. Technically, we can also wait for the new Pioneer set to come out in 2.0, as it is debuff orientated, but we'll just have to wait and see. In terms of the main stats for the individual pieces, go for effect hit rate for the body piece, speed for the feet piece, wind damage boost or attack percent for the Planet Sphere, and attack percent for the Link Rope. The substats that you would want to look for are effect hit rate, speed, and attack percent. And before I end off today's video, let me quickly go through her eidolons as well, because it might be worth it to get a few of them, as I've said in the beginning of this video. Starting off very strong, we have E1, which reduces the corresponding type resistance of all the DOTs whenever Black Swan is in the battle. So that's your Wind Shear, Shock, Burn, and Bleed. For example, if Shock is applied to an enemy, then that enemy would have a lightning resistance strat. E2 applies 6 stacks of Arcana onto adjacent enemies whenever an enemy with Arcana is defeated. E3 and E5 are as usual, so I won't go over them. E4 reduces all enemies' effect resistance whenever Black Swan has the Epiphany effect, and it also regenerates 8 energy once for Black Swan for the duration of the Epiphany effect. Finally, E6 makes it so that whenever a teammate attacks an enemy, there's a chance for 1 stack of Arcana to be applied, and whenever Black Swan inflicts Arcana, there's a fixed 50% chance to apply an extra stack. Overall, I would say that getting E1 is probably going to be very beneficial, and if you were to ask me whether you should get her signature Lycone or E1, I'd say go for E1 even though both things are valuable. And this is because E1 simply increases the overall damage for the team, which provides more value than her signature Lycone in my opinion. In conclusion, I think you guys can now see how strong Black Swan is, and why I'm saying that she's a must pull. Compared to what I've seen so far about Sparkle, I really do believe that if you can't get both characters, going for Black Swan will be the best decision. Let me know what you guys think about Black Swan, and this is going to be it for today's video. If you have enjoyed it, then please leave a like and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!